A military dog froze at the entrance to the chopper, refusing to board despite direct orders and the threat of approaching enemy forces. His handler faced an impossible choice: abandon his loyal partner or disobey commands and risk everyone's lives. But when they finally discovered what the dog had detected inside the aircraft, it sent chills down everyone's spine. Had they taken off as scheduled, none of them would have made it home alive. Want to know why? Oh, first, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. That being said, let's get into it. The night air hung thick with tension as Staff Sergeant Mike Connors pressed his back against the stone wall of the compound, night vision goggles revealing the green-hued landscape of the remote village. Beside him, Sergeant Taylor checked his weapon, a nervous habit that had become familiar during their months of deployments together. "Tell me again why we're doing this off the books?" Taylor whispered, scanning the darkness. "Because officially, we're not supposed to be 10 clicks inside this territory," Mike replied, his attention split between their conversation and the compound's interior, where they'd spent the last hour photographing weapons caches. "Command needs deniability if things go sideways." Between them sat Rex, Mike's Belgian Malinois partner, alert despite having covered 12 miles of difficult terrain since their insertion point. The dog's ears twitched at every sound, his muscular body tense with controlled energy. "Time to move," Mike said, checking his watch. "We've got what we came for." They slipped through the shadows toward the eastern wall, moving with practiced stealth. Their extraction helicopter wouldn't be waiting for another 2 hours, at a landing zone 5 miles from their position. That's when everything went wrong. The spotlight caught them halfway across the open space, followed by shouted commands in a language neither of them spoke. Rex's low growl was the only warning before gunfire erupted from the guard tower. "Go!" Mike shouted, returning fire as Taylor sprinted for cover. The next few minutes dissolved into chaos, muzzle flashes illuminating the darkness, the sharp crack of AK-47s, and the thud of boots as guards responded to the alarm. They fought their way toward the perimeter, Rex staying close to Mike's side, occasionally darting forward to create distance between pursuers and the retreating Americans. Taylor went down just as they cleared the outer wall, a bullet tearing through his right thigh. "I'm hit!" he gasped, collapsing against the ground, blood already soaking through his tactical pants. Mike dragged him behind rocks as more bullets whizzed overhead. Their position was exposed, their original exfil plan in shambles, and the nearest friendly forces were over 30 miles away. "Command, this is Bravo 6, Mike spoke into his comms. "Mission compromised, 1 wounded and taking fire. Request immediate extraction at secondary LZ." The static-filled response confirmed his fears. "Negative, Bravo 6. Nearest asset is 40 minutes out. Can you evade and proceed to rally point?" Mike looked at Taylor's ashen face, then at Rex, who stood alert at the perimeter, ears forward, sensing something the humans couldn't. "Roger that," Mike replied. "Proceeding to rally point. We need a medic." He turned to Rex, whispering the command that would determine their survival. "Find us a way out, boy." Rex moved with purpose, leading them away from the compound, through a ravine that didn't appear on their tactical maps. The dog paused occasionally, ears pivoting to detect sounds beyond human hearing, before choosing paths that kept them concealed from the search parties combing the hills. "Your dog is something else," Taylor managed through gritted teeth as Mike half-carried him across a rocky stream bed. The makeshift tourniquet had slowed the bleeding, but Taylor's face grew paler with each minute. "How's he know where to go?" "Rex was selected for operations like this," Mike explained, grateful for the conversation that kept Taylor conscious. "Belgian Malinois have incredible situational awareness. He's mapping terrain, tracking scents, listening for threats, processing all of it faster than any technology we have." They paused while Mike checked Taylor's wound. The bullet had passed through cleanly, but the blood loss was significant. Taylor wouldn't be able to walk much further without assistance. "Command, this is Bravo 6, Mike whispered into his comms. "Enemy forces still in pursuit. Sergeant Taylor's condition deteriorating. Need extraction moved up." The radio crackled. "Bravo 6, this is Command. Friendly chopper diverted to your position. ETA 25 minutes at coordinates Delta 3. Mike checked his GPS. Delta 3 was still 3 kilometers away, possible under normal circumstances, but with Taylor's injury and enemy patrols searching the area, it would be cutting it close. "We'll make it," he assured Taylor, though the doubt must have shown in his eyes. "Just leave me," Taylor said weakly. "I'll only slow you down." "That's not happening," Mike replied firmly. "We all go home, or none of us do." Rex suddenly tensed, hackles raising as he stared into the darkness behind them. Mike immediately doused their tactical light, pulling Taylor deeper into the shadows. Seconds later, a search party passed less than 30 meters from their position, the enemy soldiers scanning the terrain with flashlights. As they continued their journey, the sound of rotors echoed faintly in the distance. Rex's pace quickened, sensing their destination was near. The dog navigated them through a final stretch of dense brush before the terrain opened to reveal a small clearing tucked between hills, their landing zone. "We made it," Mike breathed, supporting Taylor's increasingly limp form. "Just a little further." The clearing was barely large enough for a helicopter landing. Mike eased Taylor down behind boulders, checking his wound once more. The bleeding had slowed, but Taylor's skin was clammy, his eyes struggling to focus. "Stay with me, man," Mike urged. "Chopper's almost here." Rex took position at the edge of their cover, his posture alert as he scanned the perimeter. In the distance, the distinctive thump of helicopter rotors grew steadily louder. "Command, this is Bravo 6 at extraction point," Mike reported. "Be advised, enemy forces still in the area. Approach with caution." "Roger, Bravo 6. Black Hawk is 2 minutes out. Pop smoke when you have visual." The helicopter appeared as a shadow against the night sky. Lights darkened for a tactical approach. Mike released a smoke canister, and the Black Hawk descended rapidly, dust swirling in the rotor wash. The side door slid open to reveal Captain Riley, the pilot, gesturing urgently for them to board. "Move it!" Riley shouted over the engine noise. "I've got multiple heat signatures approaching from the south." Mike hoisted Taylor to his feet, half dragging him toward the helicopter. Rex moved ahead of them, ears forward, alert for any threat. "Get in now," Riley called, her expression tense. "We've got company coming." 20 yards from the helicopter, Taylor's legs gave out. Mike adjusted his grip, now practically carrying his teammate, as they closed the final distance to safety. Just as they reached the boarding ramp, Rex abruptly stopped. The change in the dog's demeanor was dramatic. His body stiffened, ears flat against his head, eyes fixed on the helicopter. When Mike gave the command to board, Rex backed away, emitting a low growl that Mike had never heard outside of training scenarios. "Rex, come," Mike commanded, but the dog held his ground, blocking the path to the helicopter. "What's the holdup?" Riley shouted, eyes darting between her instruments and the terrain. "We need to be airborne now." Taylor sagged against Mike, barely conscious. "What's wrong with the dog?" Mike stared at Rex in confusion. In 3 years of operations, including dozens of helicopter insertions and extractions, Rex had never hesitated to follow commands. The dog's training was impeccable, his obedience absolute, until now. "Something's wrong," Mike muttered. "He wouldn't do this without reason." "We don't have time for this," Riley called out. "Enemy forces less than a click away and closing." Mike looked from Rex's rigid posture to the helicopter, then to Taylor's pale face. Every second they remained exposed, increased their danger, but Rex's behavior set off alarm bells he couldn't ignore. The dog wasn't just refusing to board. He was actively preventing them from approaching the aircraft. "Rex! Heel!" Mike commanded again, sharper this time. The dog didn't budge, his eyes fixed on the helicopter, body tense with what Mike recognized as alert posture rather than fear. "What the hell is going on?" Riley shouted over the rotor noise. "We have less than 2 minutes before we're compromised." Mike's mind raced. Rex was trained to detect explosives, weapons, and other threats. If he was refusing to approach the helicopter... "Possible threat to the aircraft," Mike called back, easing Taylor to the ground. "Rex is detecting something." Riley's expression shifted from impatience to concern. "My pre-flight checks were clean. There's nothing wrong with this bird." The radio on Mike's tactical vest crackled to life. Bravo 6, this is command. Satellite shows multiple hostiles converging on your position. Extract immediately. Repeat. Extract immediately. Taylor's head lolled against Mike's shoulder, his voice barely audible. The dog's spooked. Leave him. That's not happening, Mike replied firmly. The Malinois wasn't showing signs of general fear. This was a specific alert response, the kind he'd been trained to display when identifying a threat. Command is ordering immediate extraction, Riley called. We're burning fuel sitting here. Make a decision, Sergeant. Mike knew the protocol. The mission was priority. Taylor's life was at stake. The standing order for compromised operations was clear. Complete the extraction at all costs. But Rex had never been wrong. I need 1 minute, Mike called to Riley. Something's not right. We don't have a minute, Riley shouted back. Enemy combatants approaching from the south and west. If we don't lift off now, we're all dead or captured. The radio crackled again, this time with the voice of Colonel Westmore, the operation commander. Staff Sergeant Connors, this is a direct order. Board that helicopter immediately. Mike hesitated, torn between duty and the instinct that had kept him alive through 3 deployments. Trust your dog. Sir, my K9 is indicating a potential threat to the aircraft. Request permission to investigate before boarding. Negative, Sergeant. That's an unmanned enemy drone on your position in less than 2 minutes. You are out of time. Leave the dog if necessary. Connors, Westmore's voice crackled through the static. Leave that stupid fucking dog and get on the chopper. That's an order. Something snapped inside Mike at those words. 3 years together, dozens of missions, countless lives saved, including his own. Rex wasn't equipment. He was his partner. He's not just a dog, Mike replied, his voice steel, and he's telling us something's wrong with the aircraft. You're risking this entire operation over an animal? Westmore's voice thundered through the radio. That helicopter is the only asset we have in the region. If you miss this extraction, there won't be another. Taylor's breathing had become shallow, his skin taking on a gray cast that Mike recognized from too many battlefield injuries. He needed medical attention soon, or he wouldn't make it. Riley had shut down the main rotors to conserve fuel. The helicopter now sitting silent in the clearing as she monitored her instruments. Command wants me to abort, she called to Mike. Orders are to lift off with or without you in 30 seconds. Mike stood his ground, Rex still positioned between them and the helicopter, his attention unwavering. Years of battlefield experience had taught Mike one critical lesson. In life or death situations, instincts matter more than orders. If you leave without us, the mission fails anyway, Mike called back to Riley. Taylor's the one carrying the intelligence. If he's captured or killed, everything we risked our lives for is lost. Riley's expression shifted through frustration to uncertainty. Command is threatening to ground me permanently if I don't follow orders. My career is on the line here. So is mine, Mike replied. But Rex is the best detection dog in the regiment. If he says there's a problem with that helicopter, there's a problem. The radio crackled again, Westmore's voice now cold with fury. Captain Riley, you are ordered to lift off immediately. Leave Connors and the wounded if they refuse to board. That's a direct order. After a tense moment, Riley pulled off her headset and climbed out of the helicopter. Colonel Westmore, she said, addressing the radio directly, this is Captain Riley. I'm going to investigate the K9's alert. Will advise. Without waiting for a response, she switched off the radio, silencing Westmore's protest. You just signed your own discharge papers, Mike said quietly. Riley shrugged. Maybe, but I've seen these dogs work before. If yours is this convinced, I'd be stupid not to check. Riley tossed her flight helmet into the cockpit and approached cautiously, stopping a few feet from where Rex maintained his alert posture. What's he trained to detect? She asked. Explosives, weapons, chemical agents, Mike replied. But he's also cross-trained for mechanical anomalies. Dogs can detect subtle changes in machinery that instruments miss. Riley's professional skepticism warred with her pilot's instinct for caution. I ran a complete pre-flight check before takeoff. All systems were nominal. Mike nodded toward Rex. He disagrees. A moan from Taylor refocused their attention. The wounded soldier's condition was deteriorating rapidly, his face now the color of ash. "He's going into shock," Mike said urgently. "We need to get him treatment sooner. He won't make it." Riley glanced back at the helicopter, then at the surrounding terrain, where enemy forces were closing in. "I'm giving this 5 minutes," she decided. "If we don't find anything concrete by then, we fly. Dog or no dog." "Deal," Mike agreed immediately. "Rex, find it." The command released the Malinois from his blocking position. Instead of boarding the helicopter, Rex began a methodical circuit around the aircraft, nose working intensely as he tracked something imperceptible to the humans. Rex's attention increasingly focused on the port side near the engine housing. His body language shifted subtly, ears forward, tail stiff, movements more deliberate. "He's getting closer to something," he told Riley. "This is how he behaves when he's narrowing down a target." Riley watched with growing concern as Rex paused beneath the main rotor assembly, nose pointed upward toward the engine housing. The dog looked back at Mike, then again at the engine, his posture now rigid with alertness. "He's found something," Mike confirmed. "It's in the engine compartment." Riley hesitated only briefly before making her decision. "I need to check it," she said, climbing onto the helicopter's skid to access the maintenance panel. "If there's a mechanical issue serious enough for your dog to detect, I need to know before we're airborne." As she reached for the access panel, a distant crack echoed across the clearing, a rifle shot from the approaching enemy forces. "They've spotted us," Mike warned, drawing his sidearm. "We're out of time." Riley's expression hardened with resolve as she worked the latches on the access panel. "Then let's hope your dog is right, and we can fix whatever he's found in the next 3 minutes." The maintenance panel swung open with a metallic groan, revealing the complex arrangement of fuel lines and hydraulic controls. Riley shined her tactical flashlight into the compartment, her trained eyes scanning the components. "Talk to me," Mike called up to her. "What are you seeing?" Riley's expression changed as her light illuminated something in the rear of the compartment. "There's a hairline fracture in the main fuel feed line," she reported, her voice tight. "It's seeping fuel onto the hot section housing." "How bad?" Mike asked. Riley maneuvered to get a better angle with her light. "Bad enough, the vibration from flight would have widened this crack within minutes. Once we hit cruising altitude." She didn't finish the sentence, but her grim expression said everything. "Catastrophic failure?" Mike asked plainly. Riley nodded. "Mid-air fuel line rupture feeding directly onto superheated engine components. Best case, emergency landing in hostile territory. Worst case, fire and explosion," Mike concluded. "This looks like stress damage from temperature fluctuation," she explained. "The sandstorms, fine particulate gets everywhere, especially into engine components." Another shot rang out, closer this time, followed by shouts in the distance. "Can you fix it?" Mike asked urgently. Riley bit her lip. "Maybe. I have a field repair kit, but it's designed for hydraulic lines, not fuel feeds. It might hold long enough to get us back to base, but I can't guarantee it." The dog's ears suddenly pricked forward, his attention shifting to the ridgeline where shadows moved against the night sky. "They're getting closer," Mike warned. "Whatever you're going to do it fast." Riley ran to the cockpit, returning with a compact repair kit. "I need 5 minutes," she said, climbing back up to the engine compartment. "Maybe less if your dog's discovery saves us from having to troubleshoot." Mike scratched Rex behind the ears. "Good boy," he whispered. "The best boy." Riley worked with practiced efficiency, her fingers moving deftly despite the awkward angle and poor lighting. The specialized epoxy compound she applied needed to create a temporary seal strong enough to withstand the pressure of flight. "This fix won't pass any inspection," she muttered, wrapping a reinforcing mesh around the crack. "But it might get us home." Mike had positioned himself at the perimeter, rifle ready as he scanned the approaching hillside. The enemy fighters were moving steadily closer, using the terrain for cover. "How much longer?" he called to Riley. "Almost there," she replied without looking up from her work. The compound needs another 60 seconds to set properly before I can pressurize the system. Rex suddenly stiffened, his attention locked on the eastern approach to the clearing. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Mike immediately understood the change in behavior. "They're closer than we thought," he whispered to Riley. "Rex has them." The dog's ears were flat against his head now, his body coiled with tension. Mike raised his rifle, sighting through the tactical scope to scan the area Rex was focused on. There, a flicker of movement against the rocks. Two figures, possibly three, moving in a flanking pattern while the main force approached from the west. "Riley," Mike called softly, urgency in his voice. "We've got tangos on our 6, less than 100 meters and closing. We need to leave now." Riley applied the final layer of sealant, her movements quick but precise. 30 more seconds for minimum cure time," she replied, already closing the access panel. "Any less and this patch could blow on takeoff." "Rex," Mike commanded softly, "guard Taylor." The Malinois immediately moved to position himself protectively beside the unconscious soldier, while Mike took up a defensive position, rifle braced against his shoulder. The first muzzle flash came from the eastern ridge, the crack of the rifle followed by the whine of a bullet passing overhead. Mike returned fire in controlled bursts, aiming to suppress rather than hit targets he could barely see. "Taking fire!" he shouted as more shots rang out from multiple positions. 10 seconds! Riley called back, the helicopter's rotors beginning their startup sequence. Rex barked sharply, alerting to movement from another direction. Mike pivoted, spotting 3 more fighters approaching from the southern edge of the clearing. He fired another burst, forcing them to seek cover. "We need to load Taylor now!" Riley shouted over the increasing rotor noise. "The patch will hold or it won't, but we're out of time!" Mike holstered his rifle and rushed to Taylor's side, gathering the wounded soldier in a fireman's carry. Enemy fire intensified as he moved toward the helicopter, bullets striking the ground nearby and pinging off the aircraft's armored underbelly. The crucial question remained, would Rex board willingly now that the mechanical issue had been addressed? Mike hesitated at the boarding ramp, looking to his canine partner. "Rex, load up!" The moment stretched as Rex stood at the edge of the ramp, his attention focused on the engine compartment where the repair had been made. Then, without hesitation, the dog leaped into the cabin, signaling his approval of Riley's work. "He's good with it!" Mike shouted to Riley as he secured Taylor on the cabin floor. "Let's go!" The helicopter lifted shakily, its engines straining as Riley executed an emergency takeoff procedure. Mike took position at the open door, rifle ready as enemy fire continued to strike the aircraft's underside. A violent shudder ran through the aircraft as something struck the tail section. Warning lights flashed across Riley's instrument panel, but she maintained control, banking hard to the east to put distance between them and the enemy fighters. "Taking damage to the tail rotor," she reported, hands moving rapidly across the controls. "Holding together, but just barely." A sudden explosion erupted on the hillside, an RPG that missed them by mere meters. The concussive force rocked the helicopter, sending it into a momentary spin that Riley fought to control. "They've got heavy weapons, Mike shouted, spotting another fighter with the distinctive tube of a rocket launcher. Another RPG streaked past them, missing the main rotor by inches before detonating in the night sky beyond. The helicopter shuddered again, alarms blaring in the cockpit as systems approached their operational limits. As Mike reached for the radio, a terrifying new sound cut through the helicopter's noise, a high-pitched whine from the engine compartment, followed by a metallic snap that reverberated through the airframe. Riley's eyes widened in alarm as warning indicators flashed across her panel. "Fuel pressure dropping! The patch is failing!" Riley's hands flew across the controls, making rapid adjustments as she fought to maintain altitude. "Rerouting fuel flow, shutting down non-essential systems," she reported. "We might make it to Outpost Delta if the secondary lines hold." Rex moved to the cockpit entrance, his attention again focused on the engine compartment. Instead of his previous alert behavior, however, the dog simply watched, ears forward, as if monitoring the situation. "I think your dog is doing systems checks," Riley said with a strained laugh. "He keeps looking at exactly where that fuel line is." Another mechanical groan emanated from the engine, followed by a momentary surge in power. The aircraft stabilized, finding a rhythm despite the damage and stressed repairs. "I think the epoxy is resealing as it heats," Riley said, cautious hope in her voice as she studied the instruments. "Pressure is stabilizing. Not optimal, but maybe enough to get us home." Mike activated the communications system. "Command, this is Bravo 6. We are airborne with one critically wounded. Helicopter sustained damage during extraction. Requesting emergency medical team at Outpost Delta, ETA 20 minutes. The radio crackled, and Colonel Westmore's voice came through, all previous anger replaced by professional focus. "Copy that, Bravo 6. Medical team standing by. What's your aircraft status?" Riley took the handset. "This is Captain Riley. Aircraft operational but damaged. Tail rotor compromised, fuel system patched. We'll make it to Delta, but this bird won't fly again without major repairs." "Understood," Westmore replied. "Priority is getting our people home safe." "Well done, Captain. Well done, Staff Sergeant." The lights of Outpost Delta appeared on the horizon, a welcome sight after the harrowing flight. Riley had maintained the helicopter at a lower altitude, babying the damaged systems while squeezing every ounce of performance from the aircraft. "5 minutes out," she announced, relief evident in her voice. "Medical team should be standing by." To Mike's surprise, Taylor's eyes fluttered open briefly. "The dog," he whispered, voice barely audible over the engine noise, "was right." "Yeah, he was," Mike agreed, signaling Rex to come closer. The Malinois approached carefully, seeming to understand the fragility of the wounded soldier. "He saved all of us." The helicopter descended toward the brightly lit landing pad, its movement sluggish but controlled under Riley's expert handling. As they touched down, medical personnel rushed forward with a stretcher while ground crew positioned fire suppression equipment around the aircraft. Taylor was transferred to the waiting medical team, Mike providing a rapid summary of his condition as they prepared to move him to the field hospital. As Taylor was whisked away, Riley emerged from the cockpit, her flight suit stained with hydraulic fluid and sweat. She approached Mike and Rex, exhaustion evident in her movements, but satisfaction in her eyes. "Your dog," she said, shaking her head in amazement, "just saved 3 lives and a $12 million aircraft. If that fuel line had ruptured at altitude—" She left the sentence unfinished, the implications clear to both of them. Colonel Westmore approached from the command center, his expression unreadable as he stopped before them. For a moment, tense silence hung in the air, as Mike braced for the reprimand he still expected. Instead, Westmore extended his hand. "That was some of the finest judgment I've seen in 20 years of command, Sergeant Connors," he said, surprising both Mike and Riley. "Trusting your K-9 partner over direct orders took courage." He knelt before Rex, who maintained perfect military bearing despite the exhaustion of the long mission. "As for this soldier," Westmore said, genuine respect in his voice, "I believe there's a stake in the officer's mess with his name on it." After Westmore departed, Riley turned to Mike. "I've been flying for 12 years, she said quietly. "Never once questioned my pre-flight checks or the maintenance team's work. If your dog hadn't stopped us—" She shook her head, unable to complete the thought. "That's why we trust them," Mike replied simply. "When everything else, technology, protocols, even orders, might fail, they still see what we can't." Rex leaned against Mike's leg, finally showing signs of fatigue now that the danger had passed. For a dog that had navigated miles of hostile territory, detected a critical mechanical failure, and saved 3 lives in a single night, it seemed a well-earned moment of vulnerability. "Come on, boy," he said quietly. "Let's go check on Taylor. Then I believe someone promised you chicken." Have you ever witnessed an animal sense danger that humans couldn't detect? The extraordinary abilities of these animals, especially trained military and police dogs, often make the difference between life and death in critical situations. Well, would you trust your animal's instincts even if it meant disobeying direct orders? Staff Sergeant Connors faced this impossible choice, and his faith in his partner saved everyone on that mission. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this incredible story of canine heroism impressed you, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing tales. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon so you never miss another story.
Share this video with friends who appreciate the extraordinary bond between handlers and their canine partners. Check out our previous canine stories appearing on your screen now.
We'll see you tomorrow, same time, with a brand new video.